Okay, our next lecture focuses on Chapter 11, Communicating Your Research. This is from your Doing Developmental Research book. There are several ways of sharing your research with the public. This is one of the most meaningful rewards of being a scholar and researcher. In addition to publishing our research in peer-reviewed journals, conducting and attending conferences, symposia, and lectures are some of the ways that scientists share research. Presenting the research as a displayed poster at a conference is a common practice prior to submitting work for publication. It is an excellent way to share one's research to a wider professional audience. Presenting your research at conferences can inspire you while you are still writing. Sometimes talking about your work with colleagues whom you do not typically see every day can provide fresh perspective. It's important to remember, don't take any critical comments personally, but rather ponder them carefully and write them down in your notebook. You may, as a consequence, have a better chance to directly address pertinent criticisms and points while you are still writing up your manuscript. Also, you never know when someone you spoke with at a conference will end up being the same person who reviews your manuscript for publication. It's often an instructive experience to present your work to colleagues who may have different theoretical positions. You may also have an opportunity to meet distinguished colleagues from around the world. You want to develop your poster in the same way that you would develop your manuscript. Stand ready to address 3 questions. You know what they are by now. 1. What is the big question that you are seeking to answer? So in other words, what's your question? 2. Why is this an important question? And 3. What is new about your findings? What did you do or contribute how did you contribute to the science? When you are at a conference, you may notice that dozens of people congregate around certain posters and relatively few around others. Why do you think this is so? There can be many reasons, but the design of your poster can be one major factor. Make certain that your poster is not too wordy. The fewer words used, often the better. Develop an interesting title for your poster. Add a few photos and some clear graphs without too many lines and bars, and make sure everything is labeled correctly. We have reviewed that throughout the semester. Some scientists or people may ask, run me through your poster. And you should be able to do this in about 2 to 3 minutes. First, you want to take a moment to introduce yourself and get a sense of the person that you are presenting to. Then begin. The question I'm addressing is, in the case of this book, I use the example, do 7-month-olds learn from joint attention cues? This is important because many social and cognitive skills, such as language, depend on joint attention. Several studies show that infants learn from joint attention cues as early as 12 months of age. And here you may point to the studies that are on your poster. But no studies have investigated whether younger infants learn from joint attention. You see there, we're pointing to the gap that you are going to be addressing. And so in this study, you're saying, we tested 7-month-old infants. That's what's new. And then you maybe want to tell them about the type of design. In a between subjects design, we tested 30 infants in a joint attention condition and in a no joint attention condition. And here you may point to a picture perhaps that's on your poster. We measured infants' looking time and found that they looked longer at an object that they had experienced in joint attention compared to no joint attention. And then you would ask, do you have any questions? It's also something to think about here is that the author, in this example, only displayed data or showed data for looking. Okay, they didn't also, let's say, measure smiling and vocalizing, and that keeps the picture very clean here, and something we talked about throughout the semester. So at this point, the person examining your poster will either read the additional information on your poster, or they may ask you questions or say thank you so much for that wonderful and concise summary and go on their merry way. You might also give visitors a copy of the poster or have a sign-in sheet or maybe a QR code so you can send them more information. Whatever you do not want to overwhelm your audience with a 10 to 20 minute recitation of your poster. Remember to greet the visitors enthusiastically and with a smile. And also try to get a good look at their name tag. It can be awkward when someone is talking about your research in a third person because they did not take a moment to make a proper introduction and get to know you in advance. So, in other words, when you're at these conferences, be sure to be working on making connections as well. And always remember that poster presentations are a great way to know more about people in your field. So ask people questions as well. And on page 162, there is a checklist. And here it is. Let's review it together. You should have your book open to page 162. Is the title clear and does it reflect the theme of the project? If I'm in a crowded room of 200 posters, can someone see or find my poster? Can someone read my poster from a distance of 5 feet? Do I accurately and concisely describe the research question? If I had to leave my poster for some reason, and again, you would try not to do this, but could somebody understand my presentation without my walking them through it? When visitors approach my poster, do I introduce myself clearly? Did I remember to ask them if they have questions or comments? Did I include an abstract with a clear take-home message? Did I show my poster to all of my co-authors several weeks before my presentation and ask for comments? This is something that sometimes happens if you're working with people. Maybe you are only finishing the poster the day before the conference. You want to avoid that. You want to give everybody plenty of time. Next, did I ask 10 people to read my poster and ask me questions? Were those questions similar? And is there something I could change on my poster to make it more clear? Do I have funding to print a poster and to maybe purchase a poster tube that you may need if you're traveling? If not, how will you solve this problem? And you don't always need to present this on poster. You could do it with paper, but regular paper that you have at home, but that may take you a bit longer. But one way or the other, you want to be able to plan. You want to also ensure that the font is consistent. Okay, we're going to stop there and have a poster exercise. Make it more clear. Do I have funding to print a poster and to maybe purchase a poster tube that you may need if you're traveling? If not, how will you solve this problem? And you don't always need to present this on poster. You could do it with paper, but regular paper that you have at home, but that may take you a bit longer. But one way or the other, you want to be able to plan. You want to also ensure that the font is consistent. Okay, we're going to stop there and have a poster exercise for you.